It's 2:57 on a Friday. Hopefully I will not make too many mistakes while I try to record this video. This is a study guide review. I plan to also make a review of a practice test. Let's see, my phone's ringing. Okay. So our study guide review. Our first module was on integers. How can you use integers to solve real-world problems? So we have a real-world problem here. James recorded the temperature at noon in Fairbanks, Alaska, over a week in January. And there's his graph. Graph the temperatures on the number line and list them from least to greatest. You should be able to draw a number line as they have here, and they show you Thursday, it's -3 degrees, so you put a dot, and they wrote TH. Okay. Friday is -1. Put a dot, or an F for Friday. I'm going to go in order here. Monday was 3 degrees. So Monday would go like that. Tuesday was 2 degrees. And Wednesday was 7 degrees. Okay. Now can you write them in order from least to greatest? So the further to the left is least. Further to the right is greatest. And that is what they've done here. They've written them least to greatest. Okay, so can you do that? If you can do that, you have that skill for the test. Okay, well, how do I move this? Why is, let's do this. There we go. Example 2, graph -4, 0, 2, and -1 on the number line. So that's similar to what we did before. Then use the number line to find each absolute value. So I'm going to assume that you can graph those. What they want you to say here is, okay, so -4 to 0 is 4 spaces. And so that's what they're showing you here. This symbol means the absolute value of -4. How far is -4 from 0 on the number line? It's 4 spaces. Whoops, lost my highlighter there. 4 spaces. Okay, let me try another one. I'm going to change colors to help you follow along. 0 to 0. It's no spaces to 0 on a number line. So the absolute value of 0 is 0. Think you're catching on? 2. 2 to 0 is 2 spaces. Okay. And if I want to do this last one, -1 to 0 is 1 space on the number line. Okay? Can you identify where these numbers would be on the number line and how far away they are from 0? And do you also know that these bars mean absolute value? Okay? So now let's do this one. Graph 7. Ooh, that's kind of cool. Graph -2, graph 5, graph 1, and graph -1. Okay? So the absolute, let's try that. The absolute value of -7 would be 7. Sorry, they actually asked you for the absolute value of 7. I think you get that. The absolute value of -2 is 2, or 2 spaces from 0. Think you understand that one. Now list these numbers from least to greatest. On the number line, the furthest one to the left is -2. Then we would have 0. Then we would have 3. Then we have 4. Okay? And then at this set, furthest to the left would be -5, then -3, then -2. So cross these out as I do them, and then +2. So can you take numbers? Can you put them on a number line? Can you order them from least to greatest? And can you compare? 4 is greater than 1. -2 is further to the left on the number line, so 2 is greater. -5 is, if you look here, is further to the left than negative 3. So negative 3 is greater. And negative 7 versus 2. So 2 is greater. Can you find the opposite and the absolute value? So the opposite of 6 is negative 6. The absolute value of both of these is 6. Okay? For number 9, the opposite of negative 2 is 2. The absolute value of both of these is 2. Okay? I'm going to go to the next set. This was module 2 where we learned about factors and multiples. Okay? And this is where I'm going to also go over how Ms. VB showed it. Okay? Because this is not an example of what we did. So you don't need that one. Okay? I'll go over factors and multiples a little bit, how we did it in class. Okay? Okay? And then this is an example of multiples. I'm going to go over actually both of these, how we did them in class. So let's do it that way. Let's say I had to find the factors of 24 and 32. So what Ms. VB showed you is think about their partners, meaning 1 times 24, those multiply together to get 24. 2 multiplies with 12. That gives you 24. 3 is a factor of 24, 3 times 8. I'm running out of room there. 4 is a factor of 24, 4 times 6. So if I wanted to rewrite these, it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, 8, 12, 24. Now let me do the multiples of 32. Sorry, the factors of 32. 1 times 32. 2 times 16. 32 is, 3 is not a factor of 32. You cannot do 3 times something to get 32, sorry. You can do 4. 4 times 8 is 32. Cannot do 5. 5 times something is not 32. Cannot do 6. 6 times something, meaning 6 times some whole number, not 32. Cannot do 7. We're back at 8. So here are your here are your factors of 32. The GCF is the greatest one they have in common. So they both have 1 in common. They both have 2 in common. Both have 4 in common. They both have 8. So the GCF of both of these is 8. That's the way we did it in class. For multiples, the way we did it in class is we said 8 and 12. Okay. And I should know, but 12 times 8, if I needed to figure it out, 8 times 2 is 16, 96. So I'm going to stop at 96. You could also use a multiplication table. Have one handy. I'm just going to do it. 8 times 1 is 8. 8 times 2 is 16. 8 times 3 is 24. 8 times 4 is 32. 8 times 5 is 40. 8 times 6 is 48. 8 times 7 is 56. Oh, I'm turning into blue. I don't know what I did there. So that was 8 times 7. 8 times 8 is 64. 8 times 9 is 72. 8 times 10 is 80. 11 is 88. Okay, so those are my multiples. Change my colors here. Let's do this one. 12, multiples of 12. 12 times 1 is 12. 12 times 2 is 24. 12 times 3 is 36. 12 times 4 is 48. 12 times 5 is 60. 12 times 6 is 72. 12 times 7 is 84. And then 96. Okay? So they've shown them here, but I like that Ms. VB does this diagonal thing because that way when you're looking at your work, it looks different than how you set up the factors. So the least common multiple is which one do they have in common? They don't have 8 or 12 in common. They don't have 16, but they do have 24. 24 is their least common multiple, okay? So that is how we learned how to do that in our class. Let's go to the next page. Rational numbers, unit 3. Okay, so we talked in class about kind of like we're in this club, we're in this exclusive club of rational numbers. And then in the club of rational numbers, there's a smaller room. That's the integer room. And then even a smaller room of whole numbers. So I'm going to tell you that really everything you're going to see is a rational number. Okay, we don't know why it keeps changing colors like this. Kind of fun. Okay. We don't really get into irrational numbers and grouping numbers with irrational numbers till 8th grade, okay? So, well, right away, we can also look at also if it fits in this room, it fits in all the other rooms. So since 8 is a whole number, ooh, this is fun, my pens are going, then wholes are inside the circle of integers, which is inside the circle of rational numbers. So basically, whole numbers are positive numbers that do not have a decimal or a fraction. So look here, see 0.25? It's not a whole number, it's not even an integer, because integers don't have fractions, don't have decimals. So it is just a rational number. I don't know what is going on with this board right now. It wants to go home. Okay. Let's talk about finding the absolute value of each rational number. Absolute value means how far from 0. So absolute value, how far from 0 on a number line. The absolute value of 3.7 is 3.7. The absolute value of -2/3 is just 2/3. -2/3 is 2/3 of the way from 0. Graph each set of numbers on the number line and order the numbers from least to greatest. So -0.5 is right here. -1 is right here. Okay? -1/4. Hopefully I know that that's -0.25, but if I don't know that, I have to do this. 4 goes into 10 2 times. 2 times 4 is 8, right? Subtract, get 2, add a 0, bring it down. 4 goes into 20 5 times. So 0.25 would be right here, but they want, it's +1/4, so trying to look here at my glass, right there. Am I doing that right? It's kind of hard to see. 0.25. Oh, sorry, they wanted, knew I was doing it wrong. -1/4, which is the same as, that's an equal sign, -0.2. I'm going to just write with my finger, it'll work better than this pen. Okay? So the smallest one I have, the furthest one to the left here is -1. Then the next one is -0.5. Then the next one is -1/4. And then the next one is 0. Okay? Okay. And then we are not doing the performance task in this review. There may be problems like that on the test, and I will be making a review video for the test. Thank you so much for watching.